Maria, you're muted.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. We are delighted to welcome to this session on the partnership is key, how the partnership is influencing the quality of and the success of WOPs. We would like to let you know a few of the house rules guiding for the session. For speakers, we all are aligned already. For the audience, please know that you have a chat on the right-hand side of the screen where you can pose any question. We encourage you to do so, please. If you feel that you would like to go beyond the chat and wish to speak, you also have a button at the bottom of the page that says wish to speak. You can connect there and then we'll give you access to the speakers possibility. My name is Maria Pascual. I am from WOPA, and now I would like to give the floor to the moderator of the session, who is Rob Fuller. Rob Fuller works with the Global Water Aid Federation to provide direction and support in creating awareness, understanding, and engagement with water aids work. Water operator partnerships are a key approach of water aid country programs in increasing access to water sanitation and hygiene. And he is leading and providing support to the ongoing WOP portfolio in water aid. Welcome, Rob. Happy to hand over to you for a fruitful discussion.
Thank you, Maria, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome everyone to this really important session within the WOPA Congress, and one I've been looking forward to for quite a while. The subject of partnerships is absolutely central to the topic of WOPs. It is, after all, one of the words in the title, water operator partnerships, and yet it is quite commonly discussed amongst practitioners how little that we actually focus on the P, the partnership element of the WOP. And so it's really important that we're coming together today to really debate this issue. How do we better understand, how do we measure, and how do we have better, healthier, more productive partnerships within WOPs? It's going to be a really interesting session, and as Maria says, I really encourage you to be interactive. We have a chat box on the right-hand side. Please do pass on your questions to both the panel, the speakers, the roundtable, and also to Maria and myself as well during the session. Type in your questions. Ideally, we can't actually see your name, so if you can type your name along with the question as well, that would be even better. And as Maria said, if you'd like to come on and actually ask your questions in the session as well, you can do that by hitting the little green slider at the bottom right to join the session as well. So there's going to be lots to discuss this morning. In a moment, I'm going to hand back to Maria. And Maria is going to give us a brief introduction to partnership management and to relational quality in WOPs from her extensive experience in studying this both practically and academically over an extended period. We're then going to hear a case study from Dr. Adrian Mels and Ms. Zaitouni Kanenje from Nakuru, and Adrian, is from VEI, from Vitins Avides International. And this will look at the very long-running, very well-established WOP between VEI and between Nakuru and Nawasco, the utility for Nakuru in Kenya. And some of the lessons learned from a WOP that's been running almost a decade now. Following that, we'll have a brief Q&A. So again, encourage you to put your questions to Adrian and to Zaitouni. After that, we're going to move to a round table, and we have a really distinguished, and I'm really excited by the panel we've gathered here today. We're going to bring some very different perspectives from a range of WOPs. The panel will present just a brief introduction to an exemplar WOP from their portfolio, and we're then going to go into a roundtable discussion that I will lead. And again, please feel free to feed your questions in, because at the end of that, we'll continue with the Q&A to the panel as well. I'll introduce the panel when we get closer to the roundtable, but in the meantime, I'll hand you back to Maria. And Maria will give us a brief introduction to partnership management and relational quality in WOPs. Back to you, Maria.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Let me share my screen. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, so as Rob mentioned, I'm going to try to introduce a bit the topic of why are we focusing on partnerships? Why do we zoom in partnership, in the partnership side of things in WOPs? I'll do that through a bit of a review of some concepts and good practice. If you looked at the description of the session, there were a couple of statements there that I would like to explore with all of you. One was the added value of WOPs can only materialize if partners develop a good quality relationship. Another one is the relational element of WOPs is thought to be what gives this type of projects the long-term view and the commitment and the flexibility that makes them different and impactful. Now, let's explore a bit more in depth those statements. Where do they come from? Now, let's start by defining what's a partnership. There are many definitions of partnerships. I just pick one of them, but of course they have similar characteristics and elements to highlight. It's a dynamic relationship among diverse actors based on mutually agreed objectives, pursued through a shared understanding of the most rational division of labor based on the comparative advantage of each partner. What this means is, of course, if we didn't want to get that added value, that comparative advantage, we will not be working as partners. Now, partnership encompasses mutual influence, mutual respect, equal participation in decision-making, mutual accountability and transparency. Of course, this is the ideal. Now we have to reflect ourselves, how far in WOPs have we achieved this? I think this is a bit of aspiration to work throughout the partnership. As we said at the beginning of the definition, it is dynamic. And as we will see later on, of course, we all know that at the beginning of the partnership, there is no such partnership. There is a commitment to be partners, but that has to be built. Now, our goal at the end of the day is impact, and impact through new knowledge transformed into change. But how do we do that in as part of the WOP? How does this relate to the interaction, to the good relational quality between partners? A few definitions now coming from theory, from scientific literature, just to shape a bit our minds. I try not to be boring. I will just read them out loud, emphasizing the key elements. Let's look at organizational change. It's defined as a process in continuous influx. The change is ongoing. Social interaction is seen as the vehicle for change. And I like, there is another definition that I think it really represents the need for the interaction. And this is also that organizations are a plurality of perspectives that are revealed through conversation, leading to coincident interpretations and transmitted and sustained constitute the seed for change. So when we are looking into partnerships, when we are looking into aiming to, through new knowledge, go to change, that conversation, those coincident interpretations that are sustained with time are the ones that are leading to change. So this is what we are hearing here, again, is interaction, relational quality of the partners. Now, when we look at knowledge, knowledge is formed through interaction, acquired through some form of participation in a community of practice. It is situated in the system of ongoing practices. It's not just a commodity that can be transferred from one place to another. It's relational and mediated by artifacts, and it's continually reproduced and negotiated, hence dynamic and provisional. Okay, a lot of blah, blah, blah to say that, of course, it is not a commodity. It needs to be co-created, and it is really situated in a context. So we need to co-create that knowledge together through that interaction. Again, the interaction part. And then just the last remark of these boring quotations from literature. Knowledge transfer in partnerships requires tacit knowledge to be created through the engagement of partners in shared practices. And explicit knowledge to be translated into relevant one for the recipient. So whatever knowledge is brought by an external partner in how to improve a working routine, it needs really to be localized. It needs to be translated into what's relevant for the local context. And this process relies on the interactions and power relations between the different agents involved. Okay, these concepts, definitions from the literature, just wanted to mention them to situate ourselves on what we are trying to do here with the WOPs. We want organizational change that comes through knowledge, and that comes through knowledge creation in partnerships. And all of these definitions are highlighting key concepts, shared conversations, coincident interpretations, negotiating between local and external knowledge, shared practices. At the end of the day, we're talking about interaction. And that interaction is the seed for change. Now, if we think that, okay, interactions are really very much needed to lead to the good relationship. Of course, not any interaction is good, but interaction sustained with time, with goodwill and good practices will lead to good relationships. What does that mean? That means trust, that means commitment, that means mutual understanding, friendship. And why is this relevant? As we saw before, it's relevant for knowledge transfer, it's relevant for change, and it's relevant as well to characterize and to really achieve the very particular nature of WOPs in terms of how WOPs are able to adapt and to be flexible to the local contexts. And when there is a lot of evidence also from coming from WOPs themselves that eventually at the very beginning you have the plans, the governance agreements, the contract, if there is a contract, as the main governing mechanism. So partners are going to, at the beginning, want to stick very much to those agreements, to what's specified in the agreements. As trust evolves through interaction and through that good relationship between partners, through that mutual understanding, then a different governing mechanism appears that leads to flexibility. Then trust is what's going to be guiding the partnership priorities. So all these elements are really interrelated. And the flexibility that we are always praising about on WOPs and how WOPs are able to adapt to the specific needs of a water operator, even if that was not included in the plans, that does not come from the fact that you're engaging in a WOP. That comes from working together from the very beginning to developing, through that interaction, the trust required. So I just wanted to say, of course, with this slide that we start WOPs looking for that kind of flexibility, but that's not there yet. It needs to be built. Too frequently, we see that the relational component in projects, not only in WOPs, in partnerships in general, is often ignored. And knowing how relevant it is, we really need to call for partners to invest time and efforts in building positive feelings and interaction patterns throughout the project. As I just said at the beginning, there is a commitment to be partners, but there is no partnership. So where to start? Now, here we are only looking at just specifying a few elements at the design at the design point of the WOP. What are things that we can take into consideration when we have just signed the agreement that we will collaborate? What are elements that are worth considering and worth dedicating the time and effort? One of them is establish partnership governing mechanisms that support partnership good practice both at management and an operational level. Let's not forget the operational level. Many times the projects, in fact, set up a good governing structure in paper, a good governing mechanisms and protocols. And it seems as if these protocols and this way of governing the partnership only has to affect the management of the project. And that's actually an oversight, because of course those elements need to percolate to the operational level. when the knowledge transfer and the change is intended. Now, elements that we could think of included in the partnership governing mechanism, of course, a specific structure, including decision-making principles, and who will be part of the WOP governing body, operational structure for coordination and management arrangements, agreements on partnership principles and ground rules, and make very visible and act on cultural differences. Especially in WOPs North-South, we can see that, of course, there are major cultural differences between partners. And yet they are not made visible necessarily. And this has been, and maybe from the cases later on, we can see some nice examples, but this has been a problem in terms of relational quality and understanding in the projects in many cases. So I think that's one element and one good practice that we could consider when that is the case. It's good to make it visible from the very beginning so that partners can understand each other and try to work better together and be empathetic with the other. Now, other elements are procedures for communication and transparency, the means of communication, the frequency, who should participate in which type of meetings. There is also, it's also not uncommon that in several meetings, depending if it's on management or at operational level, are not represented by the right people in order for those meetings to be meaningful. So why not reflect about this at the beginning of the project and see, okay, well, how are we going to work in regard to the communication, to the meetings, to the follow-ups that we need to do on the project? Who needs to be present at each type of meetings, and just make a bit of a categorization and reflect about it together. Time frame and procedures for partners to engage into joint monitoring processes. Far too frequently, the monitoring is an exercise in which only the external partner or the partner that gets the funding is engaging into. And this is a missed opportunity in a lot of the cases to really position and set the scene. Where are we at and how do we continue as partners with a shared understanding, and not that both partners work in an isolated way when the time comes. So rather than looking at monitoring and reporting as a task that has to be done to account, to use it actually for the partners to come closer. And then also mechanisms to identify and manage conflicts. The conflicts is generally seen as a bad thing, but the absence of conflicts, in the evidence from many cases, the absence of conflicts also could be even worse. So it's not a matter of conflicts in the partnership. Conflicts are not bad by themselves. Conflicts are bound to happen in partners that have different working cultures, and sometimes different cultures in itself, with different ways of working. So you can expect conflicts in many ways. It's on how those conflicts are identified and managed and addressed and made visible that the partners can get closer or farther away. So these are just a few of those elements that we can consider at the beginning of the project when we start and say, okay, how do we want to work with partners? They seem like a lot, but in practical terms, they can be very simple. Other elements that are really very relevant at the beginning of the project are understanding the roles and responsibilities of each partner and the nature of the collaboration. In many projects, only once the project has gone through a year or even longer, partners start to realize, especially the local partner, to understand, okay, well, these guys are not here to do things for us. These guys are here to do things with us. And we need to collaborate in an ongoing basis as much as possible to really achieve the things together. And this is a missed opportunity and a waste of resources when that happens. And it happens actually as well too frequently. Again, here we come to the point of communication, not only at management level, but as well at operational levels. If that message of the need to collaborate is only clear at the management level, it's very difficult that at the operational level, things are going to work as expected. Also, a good practice or recommendation is establish means and spaces for interaction, both in person and virtual. I just wanted to illustrate with an example of two projects that started at the same time. And the office of, in these cases, there was a resident project manager from the mentor utility. The office of that resident project manager was located right there with the utility staff on the Menti side. And in the other, they were located in a completely different building. And that made a huge change in the interactions, in the mutual understandings, in the evolution of the relationship. So these elements that initially might seem irrelevant are really very important. So let's keep the spaces for interaction in mind when we are designing and anchoring the partnership. Another element is make the partnership health and the partnership capacity of partners a key output of the project. Don't just have it as a nice word there, yes, we are partners. No, make it as part of, integrated in your monitoring system so that you can plan for it, monitor, and act when that's not going well. Is assign partnership caretakers, champions in each of the partners. It's very common to see, okay, well, this is the team on non-revenue water, and this is the team on low-income areas, communities. This is the team that is working on financial management. But what about the team that is taking care of the partnership? They're not. It doesn't need to be yet another team, but at least have some key focal points to just keep an eye on the partnership on different levels and different teams. And then make sure, as I said before, that all this good practice percolate to the operational level. Now, yes, it's good to put this in paper as a first step, but let's not forget that the paper can get lost. So all those recommendations there are also to be implemented throughout the partnership project. We know of several aspects of partnership good health that relate to the setup of the partnership roles and responsibilities, work processes, meeting processes, representation, trust and teamwork, communication, transparency, and adaptation. I'll not go into details into all the good practice here, but how to get there, how to move on from the paper commitments and agreed governing mechanisms to what needs to happen in practice. We see also some elements that we need to have a closer look, and is that partners behave with you, and that you have to make a space for it. And in that sense, the partnering capacity is required at all levels, and we need to invest in that on the local side, on the local partner, but also on the mentor partner. The mentor partner has many different hats, and that will reflect, or will have to reflect, in their behaviors. They are project managers, partnership managers, advisor, trainer, coach, organizational development expert to promote that change. But is that capacity always there? Is that partnering capacity at all levels there? That's a question that we should ask ourselves. And if not, then let's invest in it. And every stage is an opportunity to develop ownership, engagement, and a strong relational quality if well facilitated in the project. So rather than just focusing on the project activities, project outputs, to look into the more functional side of the project, let's also realize that in each of the stage of the project, there will be an opportunity to increase the partnership relational quality, which in fact leading to a good relationship. We have seen that it will help in the knowledge transfer, and it will help in materializing change. I will not go any farther with this. I just want to, we talked about the possibilities to looking into stages, and how at different stages we see different elements of relational capital or relationships that need to be taken care of. With this different stages framework that I'm showing here, we can see that we move on from structuring the project. Now we get an agreement, and then we move into mobilizing all the resources so that individuals are engaged in the project from mentee and mentor. What are the elements that are crucial there? I hope the session also brings some of these elements from the practice. What happens after? Once we have mobilized the different teams, we will have different teams working in different working processes. But then, and they engage into in-depth diagnosis, feedback, and work planning, initiating change, sustaining change, but what elements can we look into on those different stages to promote that relational quality? What behaviors can both partners try to promote to keep promoting those relational qualities? We don't have space to go into depth into here, but I think probably in the cases that we will be seeing today, that will emerge what are elements that are relevant in each step of the way. And with this, I would like to finish this more theoretical introduction to give the floor back to Rob or Adrian, who will start the presentation. Thanks a lot.
So thank you very much indeed, Maria. That's given us a lot to think about and a really good basis for the rest of the session. And I was just reflecting on your last slide there as you're showing it, because it's something that came into my head as you were presenting, and you talked about, you know, a lot of process-led things about having roles and responsibilities defined and champions appointed, and, you know, management processes agreed and feedback and accountability mechanisms. And yet we see very often that doesn't necessarily translate into those kind of core components of relational quality that you described: trust, commitment, mutual understanding. The one I really liked, friendship. And that's a really interesting concept to bring in. You know, a lot of us who are technical maybe feel a little uncomfortable with this idea that friendship is a sort of key component of success, but you're absolutely right, it really is. And so perhaps as we move on into the other presentations, I just echo Maria's comments. How do we get, you know, many of us have all of those core components and great processes and great structures and governance in place. How do we get beyond that to relational quality? So lots to think about. Moving forward now, I'm going to hand over now to Dr. Adrian Mels, the Regional Director at Vitens International, VEI, along with Ms. Zaituni Kanenje, who is the Low-Income Consumer WASH Coordinator of NAWASCO, which is the utility for Nakuru in Kenya. And Adrian and Zaituni are going to talk us through their lessons from a very well-established and long-running WOP between their two organizations, which one imagines has cracked a lot of these issues already. So lots for us to learn from them. So I'm going to hand over to them and just encourage you again, please do type your questions in the chat box. In order to do that, you do need to scroll down the bottom. The comments from previous sessions are already there, so please do scroll all the way down before you can start. But without further ado, it's goedemorgen to Adrian and Jambo to Zaituni. Over to you.
Yes, goedemorgen, Rob. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. And I think you can see my presentation. Well, it's a pleasure and an honor here to talk to you about our partnership between NAWASCO and VEI, which is already here for almost 10 years. I have a few things that I wrote down from Maria's presentation, a few messages or a few things that I recognize. First of all, you said developing a good quality relationship or maybe even a friendship is very important for a partnership, for the sustainability of a partnership. And I think that's very valid and true. And actually, it's not only a friendship between organizations, but it's also a partnership and a friendship between people, and not only people at, say, management level of organizations, but throughout the organization. So, and what I also liked very much is that you said that the WOP is about not an organization working for us, but with us. And so that's also an element of partnership where you jointly work on issues and jointly selected topics that are important. So this I will try to highlight a bit, and we will try to highlight a bit on our experience in the partnership between NAWASCO and VEI. And we are myself, Adrian Mels, and Zaituni. Zaituni is speaking from Kenya, and I'm speaking from the Netherlands. Now let me move on. First of all, NAWASCO. What is NAWASCO? NAWASCO is Nakuru City Water and Sanitation Services provider. And the city of Nakuru is a city in Kenya, 160 kilometers from Nairobi in the Rift Valley. It's the fourth city of Kenya, and also a very rapidly growing city with a population of, at present, 530,000 people. And of those 530,000 people, approximately 40 to 50% live in what are called low-income areas. And then we are VAI. VAI is a joint venture of actually 2 water utilities, but a partnership of 6 Dutch water utilities. And jointly we implement CSR, corporate social responsibility activities, through water operator partnerships. And we are currently involved in over 40 water operator partnerships, and we engage some 300 Dutch and local experts in our partnerships and projects. Now, the Nawasco VAI WOP partnership is one of the longest running and an interesting one. It started actually off with a World Bank project in which VAI was a partner, and we participated as a TA consultant together with Royal Haskoning GHV. And at that time, Nawasco management was invited for a visit to a WOP, water operator partnership of VAI in Mozambique. And at that time, they expressed their strong interest to engage in a WOP also with VAI. Now, that took a while before we found a suitable project window, because we have this philosophy that we do partnerships, but do partnerships through projects. At the same time, we see the partnership as leading. And this is another statement that I would like to make. But we found a project window in an EU water facility call of 2011. And what is important for the whole partnership until now is that the gentleman on the right here, Mr. James Nganga, is the managing director. He was already there at the time, and he's been involved with partnership formulation at that time. But he's still here in the company in Nawasco, and he's been also one of the I could say the champions of the partnership that we have. And I think his personality, his modesty, but also and honesty, but also his vision has been spearheading our partnership and also brought it success. So there's also one of the elements that I already would like to highlight, that the engagement of a director and long-term engagement is very important. Now, since then, we have made a journey through several projects. We see the partnership as key, but we have projects to actually have things happening on the ground, and we've been successful in attracting funding from the EU, from Dutch funds, Waterworks. And throughout time, we have done a lot of work in different areas. And what I'm highlighting here is that there is a blue line, a blue arrow is working directly with Nawasco. But on the side, we've also been working with WASPA, the water sector, water association of Kenyan water utilities. And through WASPA, we've also been able to bring a lot of the learnings from Nakuru to other water service providers in Kenya. And I've kind of highlighted here that we saw that we noticed that a lot of the activities we've done, like the Propor activities, first had a phase of experimenting, and then upscaling in the organization, and then later on showcasing throughout the country, in which Nakuru really took a leading role in inviting other water service providers in Kenya to see their results, their approaches. And also Nakuru has been very active in leading some of the benchmarking groups of WASPA. And Zaituni will elaborate a little bit more on that. Now, a bit about the performance of Nawasco over the last 10 years. I find it also very important to state that also we can see visible results, tangible results of the WOP. It's always challenging to really attribute results, of course, to a water operator partnership. It's mostly, of course, the utility that is doing the work, but I think we have really helped Nawasco in showcasing new approaches on non-revenue water, on increased revenue generation. And it's nice to see also that Navasco has managed to double its turnover in over the last 10 years, really boost its service levels. Also very much in line and challenged by high population growth. From I think the city has almost not fully doubled, but at least 50% more population. Non-revenue water has also decreased from 47 to 31% in 2020. And I put also the total water produced here as per the benchmark, and then you can see that is one of the challenges that Navasco is facing, that they have not managed actually to increase production volumes, and that's mainly because they're situated in the Rift Valley of Kenya, which is poor on water resources, where groundwater is also, you could say not polluted, but there is a lot of fluoride in there. So that is a challenge that they are facing, and we are thinking along with Navasco to see how they can increase their production volume. And then a few pictures where you can see the collaboration. The middle picture is the non-revenue water team that worked in the first years. Here is one of the experts on wastewater treatment. On the left, you see a picture of a woman taking water from a tap that was installed through the partnership. And on the right, you see a project on where we've helped or established jointly a facility for producing fireballs, briquettes from fecal matter, which eventually is a great way of having a fuel. Now, in the next few slides, I'm asking Saituni to give her angle, and then after that, I will have a few slides on more how the partnership was managed and how it developed. Saituni.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you. So this is Zaituni from Nakuru Water, and as earlier mentioned by Adrian, I am spearheading the low-income consumer department within Nakuru, which was established way back in 2012 during when we partnered with VEI on the same. And I also want to mention that Nakuru and Kisumu was among the first water companies in Kenya to establish the Propua unit within the utilities. That means having that direct focus to people in the informal settlement. As he mentioned, you realize that almost around 50% of the population in Nakuru urban live in the informal settlement. That means that is where the largest population is. And usually in normal circumstances, the utilities have been focusing more on middle and high income areas where they can be able to collect revenue from much easier as compared to the low income areas. There has been that belief that in the low income areas, people don't pay for the services. In the low income areas, that is where there is a lot of water theft. In the low income areas, there is no sustainability of the infrastructure. But since the establishment of the Propua unit within the utility, that has really changed. So with support from the VEI program, and Propua unit was established in Nakuru and Kisumu in 2012. And since that time, this has really been something that Nakuru Water, we are very much proud of, because we have been trying to change, like the Propua units under this partnership, we've been trying to change we have been trying to change the perception that people won't pay for service. Why do you not provide people with service, yet within the area of service, this is where the biggest population lives? Then that means we are not working towards the SDGs, where we are talking about leaving no one behind. So with the establishment of the Propua unit, it wasn't very easy, because during that period, like I was employed during that period by VEI, where VEI was paying 50% of my salary and Nawasco was paying 50% of my salary. And within Nawasco, that was not an area of where Nawasco had to put much focus on. So we start, ideally in the utility, even the management was not so sure of what is it that needs to be done in there. what interventions are we supposed to put in there. So we started with first getting to understand where are these low income areas. And this is not only for water, but also water and sanitation, because we are a water and sanitation company. For the early years, the water company was not looking at sanitation at all. That is, and especially in the low income areas, this is about on-site sanitation where there's no sewer. Our sewer coverage is about 30% now. Yes, sewer coverage is about 30%. So that means all other people are using other forms of sanitation, which is on-site. Yet the company's focus was not on on-site sanitation. When we talk about water, the company's focus was on individual connections. Yet people in the low-income areas do not even have, cannot be able to afford that lump sum to have a house connection. So we started by establishing first having the Propua unit. That time it was like a one man show, because I was actually the only one in the unit, and so after that, they supported Nakuru and Nawasco to start to develop a Propua a strategic plan, a proper strategic plan. So first we had to know where are these low income areas, what are the interventions in the low income areas, and we were able to develop a proper strategic plan. Then in 2013, that is when we had a project for, we called it Nakuru County Sanitation Project, whereby we were closing the sanitation value chain, as in sensitizing people to invest in improved sanitation. During that time, we were able to construct over 14,000 toilets with support from under this partnership. Then we have been able to develop on-site sanitation business model, because as I mentioned, our sewer coverage is 30%. So all other people are on-site sanitation. Next slide, please. Then on the same, that was on sanitation. Now on water, we were able to come up with different strategies and options for water supply in the informal settlement. One thing you should put in, we were considering that people in the low income areas cannot be able to raise that lump sum. Usually having a water connection will cost you about 15,000 Kenyan shillings, between 15,000 Kenyan shillings to 20,000 Kenyan shillings. In the informal settlements, someone is getting about 300 shillings per day per household. So it has not been very easy for people in the low income areas to have house connection. So with that, with the strategies, we came up with different supply options, whereby we started by piloting the water piloting the prepaid meters in the informal settlement, whereby the prepaid meters are for communal use. Under the partnership, we have been able to do about 250 communal prepaid meters, whereby with the prepaid meters, people can be able to access water based on how much they can be able to afford, because the prepaid meter is constructed right outside within the plot, whereby each household has a token. Every time they want to access water, they just get in and are able to get the water. We have also been able to promote water kiosks, whereby with the water kiosk, we have an operator who runs the water kiosk. We have regulated prices, whereby the customers who cannot be able to afford a connection can always just walk into the water kiosk and buy at affordable prices. That is about 2 shillings for water for a 20-liter jerry can, where we've been able to reach quite a number of people on the same. We have also been able to promote yard taps, whereby instead of having your individual connection, within a plot, people have one connection, that is one water point, whereby all the households, about 20 to 30 households, are able to access water from one point. Then with that, most interestingly, because all the other three options, of course, at the end of the day, they are not the ultimate, they are not the best. The most ideal is having in-house connection for each household. this is not we cannot say that everyone at the end of it will have a household connection. But what we have done is we are promoting what we call social connection. Under this partnership, I think it was about 2015, 2016, we thought we have been having partners coming on board to support network extension. But you realize you've done a network of extension of about 20 kilometers or so. 3-4 years down the line, you realize only like 10% of people households are connected to the network. So what we did is, under this partnership, we were able to develop what we call a social connection policy for the low income areas. This has worked so well since then, and in fact, most of the utilities in Kenya and even the regulator has adopted the same, in a way that we encourage households to come forward, apply for a connection. The company buy all the materials with them, and they are able to connect all the customers, and the customers pay back in installments, and they pay with no interest. It is just the actual cost of the material, which is usually cheaper. And for this, we've been able to reach quite a number of people. And with the social connection concept, this is something that has now been adopted countrywide, and ideally this is the way to go. And so far, our customers are actually happy, because with the household connection, as compared to water kiosk, you will be able to get water right away from the household. You will be able to save quite some time looking for water and all that. So those are some of the interventions that we have done in Nakuru. And also, one thing that I must mention is, with these efforts, Nakuru for the last 8 years has been a benchmark for all the utilities in Kenya in terms of Propua. Under the partnership where we had the PayWork project, now we were able to support. It was about 18 other utilities, water companies, to establish the low-income consumer sections within the water companies, develop Propua strategies, and share experiences with what we have in Nakuru. On the same, I, being an employee of Nakuru Water, I've been appointed to spearhead the Propua component under the Water Service Providers Association, whereby all the water companies in Kenya are part to it, which has been very successful. And on the same, Nawasco has been rated the best in Propua services in Kenya. And right now, almost, when we started, we were actually the only one in Kisumu. And now about 40 water companies are also reporting on the Propua indicators to the regulator. Yes, and this is the effort that was brought about by the WOPs between Vei and Nakuru. Back to you, Adrian. Hello, Adrian, can you hear me? Back to you.
Hello, Adrian, can you hear us? Hello, Rob, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah. Adrian, I think
Yes.
is just representing.
I was muted.
Carry on, Adrian, please.
Let me go back to the presentation. Well, this was we wanted to share this because it shows kind of the journey that we've been on together, but also what I find very interesting about how this partnership has developed. That Nakuru has become a partner to others, and is really leading in Kenya when it comes to especially to low income service provision. Then a few reflections on how the partnership developed and what we use as project governing mechanisms. It's a few bullets that I thought of in the frame of this, very practically how we do this. well, we have first of all, we have had many projects, and we have had separate partnership agreements for every project, but always in the spirit of the overarching water operator partnership that we have. What I also see, and Maria mentioned it already, but the fact that we have it as an example of other projects as well, but with VAI, we see it as very important that we have a local presence. So, and that there is also a joint team representing the WOP partners. So we have a joint project team also in Nakuru, consisting of a VAI resident project manager, a Dutch guy, and we have a deputy project manager who is representing Navasco, and we have Zaituni as Propol coordinator in that team. And they're all positioned in the Nakuru Navasco office, which is a very strong, visible presence of the partnership inside the building. What we also find very important there is that there is regular partner meetings at a higher level. So the joint project team is actually reporting eventually to that broad partner meeting. And in that partner meetings, we have the high level representatives of the parties involved in the WOP. It's actually a kind of steering committee. But we also have the local government of Nakuru present, of Nakuru County, and the financiers. So that's another element of the management of our partnership. I would also say that the project team is actually also the team that is managing the partnership but also monitoring how it's going. Then fourth bullet, we also find it important that we prepare our short-term experts from the Netherlands to interact in a good way with the experts from Kenya. So, for example, we also provide intercultural working trainings, but we also try to prepare them and to really emphasize to them that developing the relationship comes first, and then that the knowledge transfer only can take place. One other element that we have occasional exchange visits to the Netherlands to invite people also to the utilities in the Netherlands, especially people from management. But if the occasion is there, we also try to invite other people. So these are important elements in the governing. Maria also specifically asked what were challenges. Can you give some examples of how the relationship was challenged by things happening in the projects and in the partnership? Well, I can say we have more than the two examples that I have here, but these are at least two examples which are interesting to mention. In this large sanitation project, which was a challenge for us all to really implement, because it was not an easy trajectory. But we were confronted with a very negative EU evaluator in the midst, and we were actually at that time quite happy with progress, but he started to really interrogate, especially in Navasco, about some of the things that were happening. And at that point, I heard from our project manager that actually the managing director was really upset about it and even wanted to stop the project. So that's when we had a deep telephone conversation, and eventually we managed to restore the trust, and also kind of jointly complained with the EU about this evaluator. Which was eventually the message is that we resolved it through honest and open conversations. Another occasion which was also challenging is that we had a very good resident project manager that we wanted to bring to Nakuru, and then the Nakuru County government minister did not accept his candidacy. So that was a bit of a challenge to us. But also through that open and honest conversation, also with the managing director, we said, okay, let's absorb this and bring in a new one. I can also bring in more examples of how things were challenging sometimes, but I think that going back always to that point where okay, we have trust in the relationship. We have seen that this partnership brings success, always brought us back to a solution on how to resolve a certain issue. And then, my final slide, what we see as the key success factors in the partnership are, again, that project team, the visibility and the engagement of the project team, the continued engagement of Navasco's managing director. I think one element that was important also in the beginning, that we started off the partnership with innovative quick wins, but also especially quick wins that yielded success rather quickly, built a lot of trust and confidence between the partners. I think what we from VAI very much appreciated is that Navasco really took the lead in reaching large-scale performance improvements, which was kind of stimulating to see that they were taking it up to a new level where we were mostly support and not leading. Very important was also the engagement of other stakeholders like the Nakuru County Government, the Water Service Providers Association, SMV, and others. What I see also as a major success indicator of the WOP is that Navasco has been sharing its results with other water service providers from the beginning. Now that's our story. Maybe one final throw out messages. I think relationship management in terms of trust between the partners is a continuous effort and essential to a WOP. And I think both partners consider a WOP as a partnership and not a project. And what we have been practically doing is that when a project was about to end, we looked for a new project. Back to you, Rob.
Many thanks indeed, Adrian and Zaitouni. A really interesting insight into a hugely successful, long-running WOP, and really good to see the sort of diversity of activities, and in particular to see sanitation brought up as well. That's particularly rewarding, and certainly something I'd like to ask more questions about. We don't have any questions in the chat box, but I'd like to invite whether any of the other panelists, or indeed if Maria would like to just come in with a quick question. We are a bit pushed on time, so I'd like to move to the round table, but perhaps one question. I think Maria, possibly.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rob, and thanks so much, Zaitouni and Adrian, for this very interesting and enlightening presentation. I would like to know very much. I think it's from this long-term WOP. I believe, Adrian, you were there from the beginning, and Zaitouni maybe also. How much time do you feel it took partners to start working as a partnership, as partners? I mean, of course, I don't need the months and days, but just a reflection on how, at what utilities, maybe there is not this common trend or habit of working as partners and collaborating and doing things together and counting each other and mutual understanding, etc. How did you feel this emerge in your project, and what initiatives, if you remember 10 years ago, were implemented to really push and support that part?
Yeah, if I may start, what I see is that water operator partnerships are a bit strange, and especially in 10 years ago, it was not very common that such partnerships would be there. And I think most utilities around the world would recognize a contract more than a partnership. So we see that in many cases, our partnerships start off with 1 year of getting to know each other a little bit better, but also for the other party to kind of understand what are the motives behind this Dutch utilities coming to us and offering their support. But I think in the case of Nakuru, it was a bit easier because they already knew about what a water operator partnership was, because they visited the WOP in Mozambique. So I think that we kind of gained the trust quite quickly already, and we also put a lot of time in making joint plans, especially that first EU water facility project proposal. But generally, I would say, to bring a relationship to a fruitful level, in the sense that it was clear what we both wanted, took about a year from the project start.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Zaituni, did you want to follow up on that?
Yes, just to add on something, and just to add on what Adrian mentioned, it's also about for Kenya, say Nakuru, we had not had a partnership before, and what utilities were used for is say like just getting a contract or a grant, implement a project and report back, but not having like the partner there working with you and doing everything together with you, as in walking the journey with you. For a start, yes, it was a bit what will be my role? What is the role of, say, for example, the RPM and all that? So for a start, it was not very clear, but with time we got to understand that this is not just a contract. It is walking the journey together. Like every step that we moved, we were together with them. And also the fact that even for a start, like we had the short-termers coming on board to share the experiences and all that. It was very interesting. And with that actually made the utilities accept even faster, because people are coming in just to look at what we are doing, say on non-revenue, coming in with different experiences and all that. And within a short time, I think that within the first couple of years of our partnership, non-revenue for Nakuru really went down, and it was like a best practice for Kenya. That is so for us. It didn't take like a lot of time because of the relationship that we had from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaituni, and I love that phrase "walk together." That reminds us of one of the distinguished speakers in the opening ceremony, who I think quoted the old, I think it's an African proverb: "If you want to go fast, walk alone. If you want to go far, walk together." And I think that's a really important message for us all. We're now going to move on to the round table part of this morning's agenda. And I'm delighted to welcome our roundtable panelists for this morning. And I'll briefly introduce them now, but they'll say a bit more about themselves when they present their own slides shortly. So from Lviv in Ukraine, we're joined by Mr. Volodymyr Byalinsky, who's the Deputy Chief Engineer of Lviv City Communal Authority. From Kathmandu, we're joined by my dear colleague and our country director for Water Aid Nepal, Ms. Tripti Rai. From the beautiful city of Sevilla in Spain, we're joined by Mr. Joaquin Buendia, the head of cooperation and funds at EMASESA, the utility for Sevilla. And finally, and last but not least, we're joined by Mr. Kain Dreisen, who's the VEI resident project manager in Ghana for the WOP with the Ghana Water Company, part of the Waterworks program. So I am going to attempt to share my screen now. So strap in, everyone, while I try and do this. And I'm going to pull up some slides, and hopefully we'll have...
We can see that.
Perfect. So let's go straight away to Lviv, and Dobry den, Volodymyr Byalinsky. Welcome. Over to you.
Yes, Dobry den and good day, everybody. It's a great honor to take part in this Congress, and also to have a possibility for a short presentation about our partnership. So the next slide, please. So our partnership consists of four companies. The beneficiary partner is our company, Lviv-Vodokanal. So we are located in Ukraine, in the west of Ukraine, around 100 kilometers to a Polish border. Our city is a big city with almost 1 million people living here. And we have the lead partner is Dresden Water Company from Germany, and co-partners are water company from Berlin and from Köln. Next, please. So our partnership began since 2019 on behalf of German company for international cooperation, GIZ, and also on behalf of German Federal Ministry of Economic Development and Cooperation, and also with a cooperation with the German Association of Local Utilities and German Water Partnership. So we started at 2019, but the work, real work, started in the beginning of this year, and our working groups started to work this year. So next, please. The main focuses of our partnership is cost covering charges. The next is HR management, and also the optimizing infrastructure and processes. It covers water supply as well as wastewater processes. So we tried to focus at operational level of our work. Those the main mechanisms are that the utilities have established standardized procedure for all of the work areas, and then they analyze and evaluate the current situation and at our company what is going on, how it is everything going on here, and then the roadmap, which include a schedule and a toolbox, has been established, and the objectives clearly defined. And now we start our real work in the working groups. So the next, please. Here you can see the photos of our work. So the up left you can see the our wastewater treatment plant in Lviv here in Ukraine, and also 2 weeks ago we had a visit from our partners from Dresden. You can see also the pictures of the visiting us, and the bottom right picture you can see the our partners. They attended also while they visit, they participate in our Lviv Eco Forum, which our company, our local water company, organizing annually for all Ukrainian water companies. And also at this Lviv Eco Forum, they presented our partnership. And on the bottom left picture, you can see the picture of our online meeting with our partnership. Unfortunately, due to Corona, we cannot have so much live activities, so that's why we need to talk online more. Next, please. So in the end I would like to say that we work together in a spirit of trust. We learn from each other, we appreciate each other, and of course we have joy in our partnership. And I hope that we will have a lot of fruitful lessons in the end of our partnership. But nevertheless, as I heard before, that it is not a project; it is a partnership, and it should last a long time. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Volodymyr. And who thought we'd be talking about joy this morning? But what a fantastic way to sum up what we should all be aiming for in our partnerships. That was excellent. Really just a flavour of the partnership between Dresden and Lviv. And we now pass on to Hein Dyson. Hein is the project manager for Waterworks for VEI on the Waterworks project with Ghana Water Company. So Hein, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to take part of this panel on partnerships, which I think is very important. My name is Hein Dyson. I'm the project manager for Waterworks here in Ghana. Waterworks is a partnership program between all the Dutch water utilities and about 39 water operators in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And the project horizon is till 2030, so that's very long. So next slide, please. Now, if we zoom in on the Waterworks here in Ghana, then we have two partners, which is on the one hand, the Netherlands, which is supported by VEI, and they are representing 6 out of the 10 Dutch water operators. And on the other hand, we have Ghana Water Company, which is the national urban water provider of Ghana and has the responsibility of providing all urban residents with water. And that's at the moment, about 17 million. Now, as I said, the Waterworks project duration in Ghana is from 2018 to 2030. Our main focus area is quite broad. On the one hand, we have operational improvements. Thereby, you can think of non-revenue water reduction, capacity building, and the like. And we also have an SDG 6 target, which is expanding services, particularly to those who are currently deprived of water in the low-income communities. Now, as to the main capacity development mechanisms, from the Netherlands, we have long-term support in terms of the project manager, which is me, and I'm supported by also short-term experts, which comes from the Dutch water sector, which is really a peer-to-peer support. On the other hand, in Ghana, I work with about 10, 20 people from different departments on different projects. We provide training, courses, exposure visits, and we're also moving more towards also South-South exchanges. I think at the moment, the biggest achievement is that we have created a mutual beneficial partnership for both parties. And I think also within the last 3 years, we have, for example, extended services to about 90,000 people together. And we've also introduced new technologies and work practice such as drones. Next slide here. They was giving me a task to say what defines a good partnership, and in that sense I can follow up on what Maria Pascal said. You have to look for comparative advantages. So I think good partnerships can change both partners' perspective. And the picture that I presented on the side might look familiar to Rob, and that's the tube. I've started my work in England. It's from a nation where I'm coming from, where we like to plan at least 3 months in advance. It's great to see that everything runs on schedule, but if once you're in the London tube, everybody looks to sit away as far as possible from each other and don't communicate. And if you start to communicate, they'll probably look at you very strangely and think you're from the north. So I think having tried to find where the partnerships can take advantage or look at the good side of each other is very important in a partnership. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Hein. And it's true, talking to people on the tube is very strange behavior. I'm sorry, it's just our nature, but a good lesson, and thank you. Okay, next up we go to Kathmandu and Namaste Tripti, Country Director of Water Aid Nepal. Tripti, over to you.
Yeah, namaste everybody. I'm Tripti Rai. I'm the country director in Nepal, as Rob has introduced me, and I'm also very happy to be part of this conversation and already learning so much from everybody's experiences. I'd like to share a little bit about our experience of the water operator partnerships. Rob, could we go to the next slide? So here in Nepal, of course, surrounded by the Himalayas, as you know, WaterAid has been working for over 30 years, and we have a very focused mission to reach everyone everywhere with water sanitation hygiene. And in that journey, one of the ways to achieve that change has been our partnership to deliver water sanitation hygiene in one of the local municipalities of Nepal. Here, the key partners are a UK water company called Anglian Water and its alliances. We have WaterAid Nepal as the partner based in Nepal. We have a public utility, which is the Nepal Water Supply Corporation, which is our utility partner. And we also have partnership with the local government authority, which is the Lahan municipality, who are very key to helping us sustain this initiative over time. We started with this commitment, with a lot of initial assessments we will talk about in the further conversations. We started in 2016-17, and all the partners have a long-term commitment to the 2030 SDG goals, and we'd like to see everybody getting access to safe water, sanitation, hygiene. The drivers for forming the WOP partnership, as I said, different partners, of course, have their motivation and their focus, but there was a shared goal around meeting the SDG 6 targets. And for NWSC, the public utility, one of the key motivations and incentives was really working with a utility partner from the UK to strengthen technical support. For Anglian Water and Alliances, they have been a very long-term supporter of WaterAid, and of course one of the key Water UK companies, being very important in the history of WaterAid itself. So for them, it was really about strategic collaboration beyond fundraising and really working on an innovative partnership to help us work on the ground. We've also had, a lot of changes in the Nepal context, and a key driver which was very much relevant in the new context of Nepal was our change into a federal structure in 2017, and also the commitments of the Nepal government around the human right to water and sanitation, as well as the SDG commitments. And for WaterAid, of course, as I said, we really want to look at how we move beyond taps and toilets to ensure that everybody everywhere has sustainable access to safe water, sanitation, hygiene, leading to dignified and empowered communities and people. In focus of the water operator partnership in Nepal, of course, we sort of started with a focus around safe and clean water, trying to achieve 24/7 in Lahan. And then, of course, we were looking at network improvements in RW, water quality, etc. And as we've worked together in collaboration, we've really worked to expand our vision to look at overall water resource management and resilience in Lahan. We've also worked on sanitation, looking at hygiene behaviors as a key way to ensure sustainable services as well as behavior change. And then we are also working on sustainable fecal sludge management. All these are very well defined in a co-creation strategy, as Maria was saying earlier, around looking at what the outcomes are and how we'd like to monitor those achievements over time. Of course, some of the capacity development mechanisms are face-to-face on-site, which is been very, very instrumental to also not just do the technical work, but build that trust and friendship and collaboration, as colleagues were talking about earlier. We also have a lot of coaching, whether that's virtual or on-site coaching with different groups, either in project management or around specific technical. And we also do a lot of in-country knowledge sharing and influencing across the WASH sector. And we've also been able to have some exposure visits, both for colleagues who work in Nepal, as well as colleagues coming from the UK to understand the context in Nepal and adapt the knowledge transfer and skills. Of course, post-COVID, we have generally now moved to more virtual, but we hope we can build on and see how, and being on this journey together, collectively leading and learning and working. And we have captured some of the key reflections and learning of partnership from the Beacon project, as we call it, in this recent document, and we'll be very happy to share the link after this conversation. So really working towards meeting the SDG 6, and hope everyone everywhere gets safe water, sanitation, hygiene. Thank you, Rob. Look forward to the further conversations.
Hello, Rob. Can you hear us? Have we lost Rob? Otherwise, if Rob cannot hear us, maybe let's just give the floor. Joaquin, maybe you can start with your presentation, please.
Muy buenos días a todos.
How's that?
Rob. ¿Empiezo?
Sí, por favor, Joaquín.
Ok.
Gracias.
Muy buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Joaquín Buendía.
Can you hear me?
Rob, we can hear you. I just gave the floor to Joaquin because we missed you for some time.
Not a problem. Sorry, I had a headset problem. Joaquin, please proceed. Apologies.
Muy bien. Bueno, decía que mi nombre es Joaquín Buendía. Trabajo como técnico en el departamento de... Este no soy yo.
Sorry, I will sort the slides out. Apologies. I'm having lots of sharing problems. My apologies. Let me go again. Get this right.
Take it easy. Bueno, como decía... Ok. Trabajo en el Departamento de Cooperación y Fondos Europeos de EMASESA. EMASESA es la empresa pública de gestión de aguas de la ciudad de Sevilla. Existe desde el año 1974 y desde entonces hemos alcanzado unos niveles de eficiencia bastante interesantes. Eso nos llevó hace 10 años a empezar a compartir toda esa experiencia, ese conocimiento con otras empresas que estaban en una fase un poco más atrasada. Una de esas empresas es la empresa de aguas de la Sierra de Montecillos, en Honduras. Es un proyecto WOP, un proyecto de cooperación en el que llevamos trabajando más de un año, quizás año y medio, que se ha visto interrumpido y muy afectado en su desarrollo por la pandemia, por el COVID, pero que finalmente ha podido iniciarse en septiembre de este año. Tenemos una previsión de duración de unos 3 años, aunque el acuerdo que hemos firmado con estas aguas de la Sierra de Montecillos prevé una ampliación o prórrogas de este acuerdo o de esta alianza por si en algún momento vemos necesaria su aplicación para conseguir los objetivos que buscamos. El presupuesto de este proyecto, bueno, pues supera los $400.000. Está financiado por agencias de financiación multilateral, como pueden ser Cooperación Española, el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo y EMASESA, que aporta pues todo el personal y todas las horas dedicadas por nuestros compañeros al desarrollo de las actuaciones del proyecto. Las áreas que se han seleccionado en este proyecto pues vinieron dadas por los propios técnicos de aguas de la Sierra de Montecillos, pues estos eran sus mayores problemas o preocupaciones. El primero de ellos es reducir el agua que no controlan, las fugas, medir mejor el agua que suministran a sus ciudadanos y también, bueno, de esa forma incrementar los ingresos que la empresa pueda tener en el futuro. Otro de las áreas importantes es realizar campañas de concienciación a la comunidad, a los ciudadanos, para que entiendan mejor en qué consiste un servicio de agua, tanto desde el punto de vista de abastecimiento como de saneamiento, y que valoren ese servicio, explicarles bien qué costes tiene, para preparar a la población en una renovación o actualización de tarifas, tanto de abastecimiento como de saneamiento, que permita una sostenibilidad de las infraestructuras, un mejor servicio de abastecimiento y el desarrollo, también la capacitación del personal, ¿no? De momento, pues nosotros estamos teniendo conversaciones virtuales, aunque está prevista la primera visita de diagnóstico para el mes de noviembre. Los resultados que esperamos tener es una reducción drástica del agua no contabilizado en el primer año, para posteriormente en el segundo y en el tercer año, bueno, pues afinar y mejorar este ratio de agua no contabilizada más lentamente, ¿no? Pero sí que en el primer año queremos pasar de un 50% de pérdidas drásticamente al 30%. También queremos conseguir implementar nuevas tarifas de saneamiento en la Comunidad de Aguas de la Sierra de Montecillo para el final del proyecto, 3 años. Bajo mi punto de vista, quizás 3 años sea poco tiempo para conseguir este último objetivo. Y bueno, y aquí para mí se abre un debate quizás interesante, que es cuánto debe durar un proyecto de cooperación tipo WOP, ¿no? Las presentaciones anteriores he aprendido que quizás un proyecto de 5 o 10 años pueda tener más productividad, más eficacia que proyectos cortos en los que no da tiempo en muchas ocasiones a conseguir los objetivos planteados. Y en este caso, pues quizás tengamos ya desde el principio que pensar que nuestra alianza con Aguas de la Sierra de Montecillo tendrá que durar más de 3 años. Siguiente diapositiva, por favor. Para nosotros, que llevamos más de 10 años trabajando en proyectos de cooperación y en proyectos tipo WOP, existen 3 claves para que aseguran el éxito de los proyectos y en las que hay que trabajar continuamente durante toda la vida del proyecto. La primera de ellas es la flexibilidad. Tanto el mentor como el mentee son operadores muy diferentes normalmente. Las personas que trabajan en el proyecto tienen que ser personas flexibles. A veces hay que dar marcha atrás en algunas actuaciones, replantearse otras, reconfigurar los objetivos, hacerlos más ambiciosos o menos en función de cómo vaya el desarrollo del proyecto. Bueno, la empatía es clave en todas las relaciones humanas. El factor humano es crucial para el éxito de estos proyectos, y ponerse en el lugar del otro, tanto los compañeros de Masesa en el lugar de los compañeros de las operadoras como al contrario, es muy importante. Entender al otro por qué tiene los ratios que tiene, por qué tiene un nivel de eficiencia bajo, etc. y el compromiso a todos los niveles. Nosotros quizás en EMASESA a comienzos de hace unos 10 años tuvimos deficiencias en temas de compromiso por parte de nuestra dirección. Hoy día el compromiso de EMASESA es clarísimo, tanto a nivel de dirección como a niveles de departamento y compañeros, etc. Y por último, yo lo suelo decir siempre, son proyectos muy interesantes, son proyectos en el que el factor humano es muy importante para que salgan adelante, y hacerlo sin motivación y sin pasión, pues resta mucho seguramente en el futuro a los resultados del proyecto. Por tanto, para nosotros, estar motivados con equipos interesados realmente en la ejecución de los proyectos es muy importante para el éxito de los mismos. Gracias.
Gracias, Joaquin. Thank you very much indeed. That was excellent. Hopefully you can hear me all now and see me, and apologies for my technical issues. My technology decided to have a tantrum halfway through that, for which I apologize. Thank you all. That's really interesting presentations. We are a little behind time, but I still want us to get into the Q&A now. And I'm going to start by going back to Zaitouni. And just Zaituna, I think what's really interesting about your WOP with VEI is the longevity of it. And we've heard from Adrian about some of the factors that led to the setup and the longevity from the VEI side. But I'm really interested to hear from your side in Nakuru about why you were keen to engage in the WOP in the first place. And as we've heard, it was very early in the sort of WOPs thinking. And also why you stuck with it. What about the partnership has led you to stay with VEI for nearly 10 years now? So Tony, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, thank you. What I can say is the partnership has significantly improved with the WOP partners actively engaged in decision making, because it has actually allowed, since we started the partnership, there is decision making. It is not like a one way. That has really made us have a lot of trust with in the partnership, allowing exchange learning in different thematic areas, areas that are of interest to the utility, interest to us as NAWASCO. Like we propose, after identifying the gaps, we see these are areas that we'll want to have an improvement on. And we have been able to get an opportunity to learn in such like areas. For example, Nakuru WOP has, for example, through this WOP, Nakuru Water and not only Nakuru Water Urban, but has been able to bring other 3 utilities in the county to work together to be able to promote, to be able to purchase an ERP system, which has really, and this is because of the WOP. And because through that we were able to get expertise from the Netherlands to come and do the capacity building, support the 3 utilities all together, not only for NAWASCO, but in this case as Nakuru Rural, Nakuru Urban, and NAWASCO. And at the end of the day, we are not only moving ahead as NAWASCO, but also other utilities within the county. So that has really been something that we felt it has, with time, the WOP has really been very instrumental. Yes.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, very insightful. Thank you very much indeed. And I'm going to move on and bring some of the others in now. So I'm really interested to really, from a number of you, what kind of key aspects did you consider, or do we need to consider when setting up a WOP project that help us promote a strong partnership from day one? And do you have any lessons learned from your examples? And I'm going to go, I think, to let's hear from Volodymyr first, please.
Yes. So the good communication about the goals of the project and common definition of objectives to be achieved, and also the employees in the companies also must have time for to be involved in the partnership, which is also not very easy sometimes because of our main duties. But still we are achieving to do that.
Fantastic, thank you. Same question, Klein. What makes how do you start with a strong partnership?
Well, if I look at the Waterworks program, I must say that the vast majority of the 39 partnerships are already based on previous relationship that they already done a project. And I think that is a good basis then to look for like activities where you can mutually benefit from it. And as Adrian already mentioned in his presentation, engagement. Partnership is not a project. So you will have to look for activities which both partners can benefit from it, which requires some flexibility. And I'm very blessed with Waterworks because, as you saw in my earlier presentation, that Waterworks has a very broad aspect. So that gives me some freedom in choosing the activities where we have that comparable advantages that Maria mentioned, and that we can look for quick wins, which is also important. But also, and then we come to the partnership, that you can work with the people and departments that have the same ambitions and have a good relationship and can champion your project. Because I think relationship, trust, and as what Joaquin already mentioned, passion is also very important.
Thanks, Krijn. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, hearing words like joy and passion and friendship coming out on what is a discussion about, you know, in theory, very technical things. It's really good to hear. And actually, let's go back to Joaquin. So, Joaquin, can you expand on sort of those success factors for establishing strong partnerships at the start? And what are your sort of key contributing factors when you set up a WOP? Joaquin, over to you, a ti, por favor. Joaquin, are you hearing us? You're on mute at the moment. So, and you're still on mute, Joaquin. Apologies. Okay, perhaps Joaquin, we can't hear you. We think you're on mute, and you can't do anything about it, I'm guessing. There we go. Try now.
Ahora sí, perdón. Bueno, para nosotros, sí, podemos hablar de muchos aspectos, ¿no?, que pueden fortalecer una buena relación, una buena alianza, ¿no? Bajo mi punto de vista, el más importante de todos es el factor humano. El más importante de todos son las personas que se comprometan más allá de los compromisos oficiales establecidos en un memorando de entendimiento o en un acuerdo de colaboración. El compromiso personal de las personas concretas que van más allá de esos acuerdos oficiales es determinante para que la alianza global sea muy fuerte. Porque si cruzamos esa línea de compromiso real, más allá del acuerdo, la alianza sería muy difícil que se rompiera o que se empobreciera, ¿no?, estando detrás personas realmente comprometidas. Esta reflexión la hago después de de ver cómo proyectos absolutamente complicados, en ámbitos y entornos muy difíciles, con condiciones complicadas, han salido adelante gracias a ese compromiso o ese extra esfuerzo de las personas que participaron, tanto por parte de Masesa como por parte de los diferentes mentees que hemos tenido. Podemos hablar de muchos factores, pero para mí el más importante es el factor humano. Okay.
Rob, are you there?
Sorry, I had been muted. There we go. And Joaquin, can you mute, please? I'm getting an echo. Sorry.
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect, thank you. So we'll pass on now to Tripti for the same question, to consider the success factors needed in establishing a strong partnership from the start.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Rob. A lot has already been covered by my colleagues in the previous presentation. I think one of the things I'd like to really emphasize from our experience is taking that time to build trust and confidence amongst all the partners. And to do that means, having different engagements and the time and contribution of very senior leaders in different organizations. So, for example, in our case, we have the continued engagement and time from very senior directors from Anglian Water and Alliances, for example. And the same thing for Nepal Water Supply Corporation, where the general manager puts in a lot of time and his leadership to then guide the branch manager and see how we can reflect on collective leadership. Similarly, WaterAid as well as the Nepal government. So that engagement of very senior leaders and their ongoing commitment has been very crucial to strengthen the importance of the partnership and see how we can prioritize our common shared areas of work. And alongside, of course, being very adaptive to the context. Like I said, I think any kind of work in partnership we cannot, do without really adapting to the ongoing changes in context. So in the partnership collaboration, I have seen the openness and the willingness from all the different partners to really call out challenges, to really be open about, how things are working, not working, or what are the barriers we see, how we can resolve it. So that has also helped us make this journey together, and we're hoping that to 2030 that'll be even more achieved. But I just like to highlight those two key things, along with, of course, like I said, the why. I think the why and the passion, as colleagues have talked about, are key drivers to keep us committed in this partnership and collaboration.
Thanks, Tripti. Yeah, it's good to hear this consistency coming out. And from your presentation, Tripti, you mentioned a lot of effort that had gone into establishing governance mechanisms for your project down there in Lahan. Can you perhaps just expand slightly on what that effort looked like and what's resulted from it? Thank you.
Yes, so very much linking to what Maria was talking about in the earlier setting the context. We started with high-level, intention, a declaration of intent from all the collaborating partners around our shared vision, and that resulted in, implementing project agreement, which then helps us do our work in Nepal and have those clarity and rules and responsibilities, our mutual accountabilities. Along with that, we've had these governance bodies set up, which are really important to steer and guide us, and also to have these open learning conversations, learning from progress as well as failures. So we have a beacon board where we have the senior members from WaterAid, Anglian Water, Nepal Water Supply Corporation, the Ministry of Water Supply in Nepal, and also the mayor from the municipality. And they are very key leaders to really steer the project and give us the leadership direction and help us resolve, challenges as well. Alongside now, that's very high level and strategic. At the same time, to make sure that we have, quick implementation, like we talked. We're able to do things on the ground. Decision making doesn't get too tardy and cumbersome. We have a project steering committee at the local level where the project is being implemented, and that project steering committee plays a key role in problem solving, day to day, work together, come together to share ideas, and they're very much supported by the technical project team to resolve some of the technical issues. Because while we do this project, we see that we have to operate in a social context, social economic context of Lahan. And we need to do that with the understanding of the culture, the diversity, the setting there. So the project steering committee, which is really led by the mayor of Lahan, is also very important to make sure we are really responding to the local needs, and we're also learning from what is needed. So those two forums especially have been very crucial, and they've been very, I think, proactive to make sure the periodic meetings happen as planned, that we also record our decisions, and we also then monitor and track where the actions have taken place, or if something hasn't happened, we also try to look at how we correct that. So yeah, those two would be quite important, I feel, for this project at the moment.
Thanks, Tripti. And it's interesting listening to, the mayor, who is not a representative of one of the partners in the WOP directly, but is the chair of the stakeholder group. And we heard from Adrian as well about the importance of wider stakeholders in terms of facilitating their importance in delivering the WOP as well. So we talk of the partnership as between the mentor, the mentee, the lead, and the beneficiary, but actually there's a much broader set of relationships that also need looking after as well, which I think we're hearing coming from everyone speaking today. Thank you. Thanks, Tripti.
Yeah, and I just want to make a point there, Rob. I think it's the local leadership is so important for the continuity and sustainability of whatever we are trying to do, because that really drives the local accountability closest to where things are happening. So we feel that has been very important for at least our work in Lahan.
Thanks, Tripti. And that leads us on actually to the next question, which is actually about how these partnerships evolve over time, or indeed do they evolve over time as well. So really interested perhaps just to go back to Zaytuna and to Adrian and just understand, have your partnerships evolved? Has that been a managed process? And how, if so, how have you gone about that? So perhaps Adrian and then Zaytuna.
Yeah, thank you. Can I start, Adrian?
Sure, please.
Please.
Yeah, for Nakuru, I can say over time, this has the partnership has improved over time.
Zaytuni?
I think we might have lost Zaytuni, so perhaps Adrian, do you want to go?
Yeah, maybe I can. Yeah. Well, I think key elements of what has changed is that in the beginning it was quite a VI-driven process in which we had ideas on where the partnership could go, and eventually, or maybe I think quite quickly, it changed. That changed to a joint decision making on what were the priorities, and I think also through time, I see that a lot of the ideas were taken up first, and actually Navasco went more and more into the driver's seat of the partnership. What is now very nice within the Waterworks program that we're running with Nakuru County, in which involves Navasco, but also two other water service providers, as Zaytuni was mentioning, is that there is every 2 weeks, I believe, there is a meeting of the three directors of the three water companies with our resident project manager and the team. And they actually look at the ongoing developments, but they also prioritize new activities. And it's actually what Krijn was also mentioning, that Waterworks gives a lot of room and space to go for new actual demands of water service providers, of water utilities.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. And I was coming to Krijn next, actually, so that was very useful to tee me up that way. And I think, I mean, what I'd like to hear, because it's another VEI perspective, but is that process from VEI as perhaps the leader to being the follower, in the WOP? Is that a managed process, or is that something you have set stages and set milestones, or is it an emergent organic process? Perhaps Krijn, you can speak to that.
I think that's mainly an organic process. I think that will happen over time. I think the more you work together, the more you understand each other and appreciate each other, see where the opportunities are. So you'll see in the beginning the relationship is a bit more formal, and after time it becomes more informal, and then you share more where you can find grounds where you can benefit from each other. And therefore I don't see that much as a lead and a following, because you're actually working both on the same project and with the same goals. So I think it's very important that you have mutual interest in the activities that you're doing.
Great. Perhaps Volodymyr, can you come in on this? Because you're at the start of your WOP, and as the mentee or the beneficiary, do you feel like you will get to a position where you'll be leading the relationship, or perhaps you do already?
Yes, I agree with the previous speaker, and it's very sad that we cannot meet each other as we would like to, because when we had our this meeting, when our colleagues from Dresden come to us 2 weeks ago, we had a great time. We had a great communication, and also we have a great time after work. So this time is really join us, and it's really help us afterwards to talk more as a partners, really partners, and to give us more perspectives. And yes, but due to Corona, unfortunately, we cannot meet so as we would like to.
Yeah, and I think that really echoes or speaks to Joaquin's point about the informal side, and people, when they're putting effort in beyond the formal commitments, that's when the project or the partnership really starts to sing. I'm going to move on to a question now, which is perhaps more practically focused, and it's actually about how to monitor. So interested to hear any insights on whether within your projects you monitor the quality of your partnership management and the health of the individual relationships, and if so, what tools do you use? What can you tell us that's really practical? And we'll come back to Joaquin first, perhaps, on that one. Joaquin, if you can speak to that.
Bueno, para hacer el seguimiento y el control y la monitorización de los proyectos, lo cual es básico, ¿no? Nosotros empezamos hace 10 años sin hacer esa monitorización y ese seguimiento. Hemos aprendido que es importantísimo. No existe lo que no se mide y tal, ¿no? Hay que hacer un ejercicio intelectual bastante fino de elegir bien esos indicadores para que te permitan ver si realmente estás consiguiendo los objetivos que te marcas. Y nosotros, en el MASESA, hemos tomado la decisión de basar todos los indicadores de seguimiento de nuestros proyectos, tanto desde el punto de vista de gobernanza como desde el punto de vista técnico, en los indicadores que publicó Aqua Rating hace un tiempo, ¿no? Es una guía muy extensa, que profundiza mucho y, bueno, puede tener sus ventajas y sus desventajas, pero para nosotros es una buena inspiración en la que nos apoyamos y en la que seguimos en todos nuestros proyectos. Conseguimos de esta forma también tener una homogeneidad de indicadores en cada uno de los proyectos y poder establecer también indicadores más estratégicos a nivel de nuestro plan de cooperación como empresa, y bueno, y compartirlo también con nuestros políticos, ¿no? Nuestra empresa es una empresa pública, pertenece a 11 ayuntamientos de Sevilla. Y bueno, esos ayuntamientos, pues los alcaldes y el equipo de gobierno están elegidos democráticamente y les debemos también una respuesta, ¿no? Entonces, Aqua Rating también nos ayuda a esa monitorización, a ese nivel. Vale.
Yes, thank you, Joaquin. Yeah, interesting to hear how the recognition came of the importance of monitoring partnerships as well. Krine, any reflections from you? Do you monitor partnership health and relationship health?
Well, that's actually an interesting question. If I look at my reporting template, there is not a tick box that I have to fill in every quarter how the health of the partnership is. Although I think if you look at the progress of the water operating partnership, it is also, you cannot progress if you don't have a good partnership. So it does come hand in hand. I do notice that when it comes to finding like monitoring for the health of individual relationship, I find it an interesting one because I see that in every country we do that in a different way. We have in the Netherlands we usually have a formula where we say 3 good things about somebody and 1 thing that we would like to improve, and we always know that the 1 thing we like to improve is the one that we go home with and think about. Here in Ghana, I really appreciate that they're very good at giving feedback. So I think that's something that we Dutch can learn from. But yeah, it's an interesting one how you can formalize it in a setting where you have like active in the case of Waterworks in 20 countries. For example, in the Netherlands, my colleague one time said to me, Krijn, if you want to give a successful presentation, please don't ask for feedback. So, but if that applies to other countries, that is not the case.
Interesting.
So I think you have to be flexible in that.
Yeah, and that context specific aspect of it, I think is very interesting as well. Volodymyr, as someone starting out on a WOP, as I said earlier, are you considering thinking about how to monitor the health of the partnerships between yourselves and Dresden and the 2 other additional partners?
You know, as I told before, the best way to have the health relationship in our partnership is to meet with each other, and then by this meeting to have a good relations. And after having these good relations, after having this real friendship, then it will help to make our partnership very healthy and very fruitful. And yes, this is my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very strong message of the importance of the social aspect in your WOP. Very important message. Thank you. I'm very conscious we are over time now. So thank you for those that have stayed with us. Apologies, we have overrun, but we've had some very rich content today. I'm going to bring the forum to a close now with our final 2 questions. So one of the things we're really interested in and can often affect the quality of relationships is how power is manifested through the relationship. So I'm really interested to get some insight on balancing those power potential imbalances. And I'd like to hear from Tripti on just share her experiences on how that can be mediated. Tripti, you're muted.
Yes, I had some technical difficulty unmuting. Something is going on with the buttons. I mean, as you said, you know, because different organizations and institutions come with different, you know, of course, backgrounds and their focus and leadership styles and behaviors. One of the key ways we felt is, of course, first understanding each other, taking the time to understand each other's cultures and ways of working has been quite important for us. And in terms of, power, I feel one of the ways we've tried to sort of resolve that is creating a board which is very inclusive and diverse, and every partner has an equal footing. So there isn't, any sort of different relationship. Everybody has a say in the table, and everybody is, sort of pretty much operating as an equal. And that board, I think the way the board has been set up and its composition and how it's run is playing a key role in how the partners have now really, become a collective leadership team. So it is really well chaired by, one of the senior directors of Anglian Water. But we make sure that at every board meeting there is a reflection around the partnership, where a three-piece model is used to reflect on the professional, the personal, and psychological reflections, and see where we are, and sort of that opens up the conversations around these. And to be more specific also, because we really wanted to understand how working across the different organizations is being felt by, the different partners, we did an independent management review some time back, around 2 years back, and that also helped us really see how to better improve around managing these power dynamics and relationships as well.
Thanks, Tripti. Zaituni, if you're still with us, can you comment on this question as well about from your perspective of being the beneficiary of the power dynamics in a WOP? I'm not sure if Zaituni is hearing us. Zaituni.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I also had some technical challenges. So what I can say about the power is, for us, the fact that we are having, like, at that top level, whereby the managing directors and the resident project manager are having, actually it is a monthly meeting just to get to know what is happening on the ground. That has really been helpful. As in, at the top level, they clearly understand what is happening, and also what I can say is the fact that during this work, there is an MOU between they and Nakuru County, which was signed by, I think, the governor of Nakuru County. That was really helpful because, and this has come as we moved forward. Because remember, when we started the work, that was not there. But as we moved forward, we noted this one was very key for sustainability of whatever program that we were doing. So, like, you find this has really improved the relationship. And as a county as a whole, there is that eagerness to see what was the agreement before, what were we supposed to achieve as Nakuru County under this WOP? What are we doing about it? And this is a push that is also coming from the county government, that is the governor and the CEC for water and all that, to the MDs, now from the MDs to us, to the people on the ground, which has really been very, very helpful towards sustainability of the WOP and continuity of the different programs that we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaituna. That's very insightful. I'm going to take us to our last question now. We are over time, as I said, and thank you to everyone for listening and staying with us, and thank you also to our panelists for their very rich insight. And the last question is an interesting one, and it's one that GWOPA and myself and others were keen to raise, because there's no right answer to this, but we use the question is regarding terminology we use in a WOP, and traditionally we have used the terminology of mentor and mentee. And those terms themselves perhaps are loaded with their own meaning that potentially have some negative connotations as well within a WOP. So I'm just interested to hear from all our panelists whether they think that's an issue, whether they're comfortable with the terminology, whether they're not, and whether they have any suggested. So in no particular order, let's go with Krijn first. So Krijn, do you have any views on the terminology?
Well, I never use that terminology. I don't think it's appropriate in the water work context, in the sense that we are a peer-to-peer water partnership. So we strive towards equality in our partnership. And I think that's also the message that I bring across here. And that is also reflected in how the partnership works.
Fantastic, thank you. Tripti, do you have a perspective on this?
Yes, thank you, Rob. I think very much I agree. It's more about peer-to-peer collaboration and partnership. I just want to say we have never used the mentor-mentee terminology either, because having spoken about power a little bit earlier, I think if we want to address power relations and if we want to really go beyond the silos, I feel that the language we use and the way we explain it's a huge part of the communication. So probably looking at how we transition and see the evolving nature of work partnerships, it might be a good time to think of how we can, rename it or say something that really brings in that collaboration, spirit of collaboration and partnership.
And any suggestions?
I think peer-to-peer partnerships sounded very good, or strategic partnerships sound good. But yeah, at the moment, I don't have anything on top of my head.
That was unfair, sorry. Joaquin, let's hear from your perspective, and partly because I don't know if mentor-mentee actually translates into Spanish anyway, so you'll let us know if there is a different Spanish equivalent. Thank you.
Bueno, para mí no supone un problema la terminología de mentor-mentee. La verdad. Estaba antes escuchando a mis compañeros, pues quizás haya que revisarle. Nosotros hemos sido mentores en muchos WOPs. Vamos a ser mentí en uno próximamente con empresas públicas de Medellín. Y no tenemos a priori ningún problema con jugar el rol de mentí en esta ocasión. Yo creo que hay que ser humildes en ese sentido y es una terminología que para mí refleja una realidad. Siento disentir con el resto de compañeros.
Rob, you're still muted.
Thank you very much. Apologies. Thank you. No, I was saying thanks, Joaquin. It's useful to have that really pragmatic viewpoint as well. And I think that there is a certain sense of, are we being overly sensitive to language here? And with that, I'd quite like to hear from Zaituni. Are we being overly sensitive? Does the term mentee, from your perspective, have any negative connotations?
Yeah, from my perspective, what my feeling is like when you talk about the mentor, this is you are providing the technical backstopping, and I as a mentee is willing to learn and implement as agreed. Yes, so there is that, the person providing the technical support and all that, and the other person is willing to learn and implement the process. So, however, if we look at it that way, still makes a lot of sense. But if we are looking at it from, say, partnership in this case, as in we are all learning from one another, because of course, like when we have like the Dutch expats coming to Kenya, of course they are coming in with experience to share with us, but at the end of it, there is also a lot that they are borrowing from us. For example, let me talk about now the proper aspect. I am not so sure whether, say, we may have like a Dutch expert from the office, Adrian is here, will correct me, will come to say be our mentor on Propua services, because Propua, it is about the environment that we are in. We understand ourselves better and all that. So for this, maybe it is partnership, just sharing your experience, maybe from other countries and all that. But when it comes to that line, we may have more to share based on our experiences. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. That's very helpful. And finally, we'll go to Volodymyr. Volodymyr, how do you feel about being termed a mentee? Are you comfortable with that?
We never use this kind of words, of terminology, yes. But we understand that in our partnership, our company is a mentee because we understand that German companies, water companies, are have more experience in doing things and in all these areas, and we would like to gain this experience from them more than they will gain from us.
Great. So a certain pragmatism as well about the language. Yeah.
Yes.
Lovely. Thank you all so much. It's good to have some constructive disagreement at the end as well. It's always a good thing. So I just want to thank you all the members of the roundtable for your time today and your presentations, and to Adrian and Zaituni as well for the main presentation. With that, I'm going to pass you back to Maria to wrap us up and end the session. Thank you all once again.
Thanks a lot, Rob, for this wonderful moderation, and thanks to all the speakers. It's been a really rich session, and just very briefly to say that we've gone through the theory and we've now reflected with cases and evidence from cases how WOPs are indeed requiring a specific attention to the partnership, and how the different experiences are showing that not only the professionalism on knowledge of water expertise as a professional is important, but particularly for achieving progress, the partner inside of the WOPs is also very important. We've heard words, as Rob emphasized, making progress through friendship, through passion, through empathy, which is crucial in this type of projects, and they also are the key elements that make WOPs more impactful through breaking the project cycle, as we were mentioning yesterday in one of the sessions. In many cases, breaking the project cycle, partners getting together, committed, searching for additional funding if needed to continue and be relevant in terms of the impact, flexible enough to be relevant in terms of the impact and the relevance of the projects with time. So for GWOPA, this session is really important. We would like to keep learning and supporting WOP practitioners in becoming better partners. And as we mentioned before, also to integrate within our monitoring practices an invitation to monitor as well the partnership side of things and to learn and adapt. And we are integrating this. So for us, it's also very important to get all these learnings from the session. And with this last feedback on the GWOPA side, I would like to close the session and thank everyone for the very rich experiences shared today. Have a great day. Afternoon or night.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
What? Already over? No, we have plenty more options to continue the discussions and peer exchange beyond the Congress.
Tell me more. What are the options?
Well, GWOPA membership, for example. By becoming a member of GWOPA, everyone can connect to a global alliance of practitioners and experts. There are two ways of becoming a member. First, institutional members. Institutions can participate in GWOPA's assemblies and are eligible to run and vote in its international steering committee elections. Or second, individual members. Individuals can connect and engage with peers in the online GWOPA community. We have created a space that allows for networking and easy communication. Meet future WOP partners, stay up to date on project opportunities, and participate in peer-to-peer learning opportunities.
Sounds great. How can I join?
Simply go to www.gwopa.org and register for free. If you want to know more, you can follow GWOPA on social media and subscribe to the newsletter. Thanks for joining the 4th Global WOPs Congress. We'll see you soon.